This is Seahawks Stories, 50th Season Edition, presented by Emerald City Athletics.
Seahawks Stories 50th Season Edition is presented by Emerald City Athletics. We are back. We are at the golf course. The conversations are free-flowing all day long, and the conversation we are going to have with Lofa Tatupu makes him smile just thinking about it. We're going to take you back to one of the biggest shutouts.
I think so. I believe so. I would have to fact check, the records. Dude, it's been a long time since 05.
You just said that if you say anything with the right attitude, like you can say anything.
It was the Monday Night Massacre, ladies and gentlemen. It was a balmy 40 degrees. But yeah, it was a fun night.
So the final score is 42-0 against the Eagles. Now look, That was a great team in 05, but also you expected something a little bit different from the Eagles. I think Mike Holmgren was expecting a lot from the defense that game. Before we get to the outcome, what happened the week before that game?
The week before?
What did Mike say?
Well, we needed one more win to clinch, right? Is that where you're going? Yes. I'm glad I got it right. So we needed one more win. He's like, we haven't done anything yet. This, and that. And then he kind of vamped up the defense saying, hey, they got a guy over there in Brian Westbrook, and I don't think we have anybody that could check him. I got history with Brian through college. And so I was like, that's all I needed to hear. And it took a whole group effort, right? That's how phenomenal this guy was. But, when you hear something like that, you're challenged. And if you respond favorably, which we did, so we had 4 or 5 takeaways, and then 3 touchdowns on defense. Andre Dyson had a 71-yard interception return, a 30-yard fumble forced by Leary Hill, and I had the other touchdown, 38 yards.
How many times did you make it into the end zone in your career?
2.
So this was especially memorable one.
It was half of them.
What's half of them in that game?
But leading up to it, though, John Marshall, R.I.P., that's my dog, Johnny Marshall. He's not with us anymore, but I love you, John. He came up to me and he said, hey, I remember when we met, or when we drafted, you said you were going to score. He's like, you still haven't scored yet. This is right before the game. And I go, you know what, John, I'm scoring today. I go, and then get your binoculars out, because I know he's up there. And I was like, I know you're old, so get your binoculars out. You're going to see a touchdown celebration that you might remember. And I didn't let him know what was coming. I scored and I shushed the crowd, and then I did the Ken Norton Jr., who was my coach in college and who John Marshall coached in the league. And so everybody thought it was Rocky Balboa, and respectfully, when the media interviewed me after, I was like, you guys know Rocky's not real, right? I just had to give Philly their brotherly love. Like, hold up, you have a statue of a guy that's not real. Let's just keep it real. So, yeah.
What did he say about your celebration afterwards?
He loved it. He goes, it took him back in time, is what he said. He goes, I remember Ken doing that every time he scored, paying tribute to his dad, Ken Norton Sr. And so for me to do that was just like, it's a passing of the torch, but just like paying respect to those that helped. He helped me so much get to the NFL. And I only spent 1 year with him. I wish I spent more time. But then I got to, play under him at Seattle my last year. And it was just so meaningful.
What do you remember about the Eagles crowd that day? Because they hung around until halftime, and then they left.
Yeah. Well, you got to go in and take it over, make it your home, right? I love playing on the road. But what I loved about their crowd was that was the time we were getting introduced, or the offense was getting introduced, but like in 07 we went back and the defense got introduced. So we're all like, hey, we come out as a unit. Offense or defense, we come out as a unit on the road. And they're like, not here. You're in our house, these are our rules. So they announce you one-on-one, one by one. And in unison, when they're like, Lofa Tatupu, USC, middle linebacker, sucks. The whole crowd. But I used to harness that energy and just use it on the field. And so it was one of the most fun places to play, in my opinion, because they were so passionate. They reminded me of the 12s. Just the 12s were a little nicer, I'll say.
Well, I've told the story a few times. I have walked through the parking lot in Philly. You do not want to do that. They were lighting fireworks and pointing them my direction. And I said, at that point, I'm out of here.
Yeah, the
folks.
wrong
like,
colors
I'm not,
on.
it was not, we were not, I was not going to mess around with that. But did you realize that at halftime of that game, Reggie White's number was being retired?
I did. I actually ran out early to watch some of the highlights. And, that was one of the greatest players that ever played. 3-time, him, J.J. Watt, and Aaron Donald. Lawrence Taylor. Yeah, Lawrence Taylor. So I'm wrong there. But Reggie should have had 3 defensive MVPs. And Mike Holmgren, I asked him, I was like, hey, who's the greatest player you ever coached? I thought it was going to be Brett Favre, right? Or I thought it was going to be some of these other guys that offensively.
Right.
He said, hands down, not even a question, Reggie White was the greatest player I ever coached. And I was like, awesome. Like, that's amazing. Because that's how I felt when I watched him play. Is just the biggest, strongest, fastest guy, and there's nothing you could do. It's just a matter of time, and you're in his world, and good luck.
Well, the fans stayed to watch that, and then they decided to take off.
I think they only stayed for the Reggie White ceremony, right? His family was there, right?
Yeah, so then the second half, you're playing for what? An empty stadium? And your offense is probably mad because they weren't on the field. The starters weren't on the field anymore because you guys scored so many points on defense.
Do you know what I was so happy about was that, offense was why we went to the Super Bowl, right? Number 2 or 3 overall offense, number 1 in rushing, everything. It was them. But that was our night where when we got to the locker room, I was like, hey, man, we scored as many points as you guys. Let that sink in. And then they were like, yeah, that's 1 out of 10. I was like, yeah, you're right.
They couldn't just let you have the one night.
No.
That's not too much to ask. It's just one night.
Right.
You were talking about the weather before we launched into this conversation. You said, what, 40 degrees?
It was way colder than that, and it was, snowing. But that's why I said it felt – I like the cold weather. I overheat naturally, and so, when I went to college in L.A., I was just like, wow, it's hot out here. I had to get an IV before the game at halftime because, I'd rather play in the cold.
Do you think that all of those factors, the cold, the fans, the location, do you think that helped people across the nation take the Seahawks more seriously? That game in particular?
I think so because it was a primetime game, right? And we didn't have a ton of them, and for whatever reason, but we enjoyed flying under the radar and not listening to the noise. We knew, so we started off 2-2, and then we went on that 11-game run, and then we lost to Green Bay at the end, which we thought was Brett's last game. It wasn't. He played 5 more years, So we. That's another story. That's
a different story.
We'll come back.
Circle back around on that one.
For that one. But so we thought he was going to ride off in the sunset. But either way, Sean broke the rushing touchdown record. It was just such to watch that offense work, that offensive line that we had to face every day. So me and Leroy are rookies, and we're like, man, maybe we're not ready for this. And then we went to a preseason game and we did what we do and balled out, and we were like, nah, we're ready. They're just good. They're just really, really good. Talking about 2 Hall of Famers, Pro Bowl, Robbie Tobey, Chris Gray, one of the most underrated, Sean Locklear, one of the most underrated. They should have both had Pro Bowls, but you can't send the whole line to the Pro Bowl, right? But they should have. It was an all-out battle every day in practice, and that's why the games were easy.
They were fun.
They were fun.
Practice
wasn't.
I bet that plane ride home after the game was fun. I'm going to ask you about that in just a minute. But this NFL season, feel every play, every hit, every moment with Sony 1000 XM5 noise-canceling headphones, the official headphones of the Seattle Seahawks. With premium noise cancellation, you are in the zone. No distractions, just pure football. Whether you're in your living room or on the go, you'll never miss a beat with Sony headphones. Plane ride home after a win is always better, especially flying cross country. I think they're a little more subdued now, but that one, I got to imagine the plane was rocking.
Yeah, we were different beasts back then, different breed of animal. But, it's guys that just loved what they do, the game of football, and then it was a family. They loved their family. And so, just sitting back there with, Bobby Ingram, me and him used to go over every play, offense and defense. We would recount, like, hey, what happened? What'd you see? Like, how'd they play this? Just to learn more from a guy that, he's seen everything, right? That was, one of the greatest teammates and mentors I ever had. But just sitting back there, you won. Who cares how? You won. Because wins are so hard to get in the NFL. And any given Sunday, like, anything can happen. But it was special. The plane ride back is special. And even, like, going to Cheney, everybody's like, oh, how was that? I was like, it was awesome. We're staying in the dorms like we're college kids again. And so, like, the older guys, that have families, now you see them, like, actually, like, little kids.
Yes.
And just, like, they come back to remembering the time when they were in college. And so just hilarious, like, the stories. But the plane ride after a win, to the locker room after a win, you know, right? Doesn't matter where you're at, hey, we did it. It's a magical moment that I'll never forget. Every single win, just grateful for it.
Lastly, because we could go on and tell stories for a very long time.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this a little bit before, but what did that 2005 season mean to you and to your career? Because that's an awesome way to enter the NFL. It is also really tough to live up to after that.
It was the greatest football year of my life. And, I've had some good years. And but just the group, right, that it was a team that loved each other, man. Like, especially in the NFL where it's a job now. Like, college, everyone is there to do, but now you get to the NFL, it's your job. And so there's so many different ages and people that have to come together. Everything has to gel together. The chemistry's got to be there. And it was one of the strongest, tightest teams I've ever been on. And wish we could have finished the job. Yeah. We'll save that for another episode too, but it was still the most fun I ever had playing football to this day.
And Lofa is still one of the most fun interviews that I get to do, talking about football. We're going to end on that note. Thanks for joining us for more stories from the Seahawks' 50th season. We'll see you next time.